spent the last 2 months like looking down the road and saying, well, you may end up with like a Celtics Denver final, and could the
But I told you
Celtics
that
really beat Denver?
the whole time. I told you the teams that Denver might struggle with. All the teams that
Right.
because in the regular it's playing out in the regular season mostly
Yeah.
how it's playing out in the playoffs. It's a matchup thing, and some teams just and I told you I said Minnesota's length did provide
No, and
struggle. If I had to put money on the series, I would go Denver. But if you look at the regular season, the Minnesota's length, it shows you it does bother Jokic, it does bother Murray. So I wanted to talk about this from the side of Western Conference, semifinals here.
Yeah.
And you have Dallas against OKC, and Denver and Minnesota. The first thing I wanted to tackle here, midway through the season, I made a comment, and you always hear this about you have to have experience to win throughout the playoffs and things like that. And my main point was, man, for me, good is good. I don't care how young you are. Like that young OKC team that went to the finals, yeah, they were super young, but they were fucking awesome, man. You can see it. Once you see it, that's enough belief for me. I don't have to fucking say, oh, they need to hit their war wounds and they need to lose in the playoffs a year and 2 years and 3 years and 4 years like everybody else. That's not the case, man. I think if you're talented and you have a full team that makes sense, OKC's team, they're extremely young, but they pretty much have everything, man. They have shooting. They have a star who can close. They have a defense. They have defense on the wings. They're long. They're athletic. And the reason why, of course, I'm a Chet guy, but also I love Chet Holmgren's impact on this team. This is the same exact team from last year, okay, to this year. The only difference is Chet is on the team. And a mobile big who can protect the rim and shoot threes as efficient as he can is so fucking deadly in this version of the NBA. And then you on the other side, you have Minnesota Timberwolves and you have the Denver Nuggets. Minnesota, again, not as young as OKC, but their stars are young, and Ant and Karl Anthony Towns. And then you have some
How old is Towns these days?
Towns, if you put me on I would say he's about 26.
Okay.
25, 26.
Okay.
That's a strong guess. And then then you have the KD Jr. As, I like to call him. You have some young guys over there as well. Okay, what do you think about that aspect of things? As far as young teams can't win in the NBA.
Historically, that has been true. That basically, you kind of get in the playoffs, and there's always kind of been this thing where you kind of, progress and bump your way through, and then finally break over. I mean, you go back to when I started watching, which would be like, the Magic Bird rivalry, where those teams, kind of, held it down. They had veteran cores that added Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. They were the dominant teams, and then like teams kind of had to get over them. The Pistons, like, they went up against them for a little while. They finally got over the Celtics. Then they finally got to a championship and won. And the Bulls were getting their butt kicked by the Pistons, by the Celtics in '86, and it took a while for them to progress to be champions. So what we're looking at, if either one of these teams win the title, it's an amazing accomplishment for that reason, that both of these teams bring very little playoff experience, very little deep playoff experience to the equation. But to their credit right now, they're both doing the job. But absolutely doing the job.
But I know you said win the title, so that's the catch. But the thing that they say that's around that topic is even getting to the title, advancing through the playoffs, getting to the Western Conference Finals, getting to the finals. They said that young teams do not do. They need to endure their bumps along the road. And of course, I wasn't born back then, so I wouldn't know. But I guess I can say from my time, I don't deem that to be accurate or true. Young, talented teams from my time up until now, they make it. I don't know any young, really talented teams like this that have not made it or have not had success in the playoffs. So I guess I don't
What I
understand.
mean, you mentioned the what 2011.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Maybe there's
Thunder.
not a ton of maybe
There's not many
Yeah.
examples of that. What I'm saying, like my point is,
you have
what
these
these
teams.
two teams are doing is amazing.
Yeah.
They have all these nice pieces, and they're all working together, and they're rising up and meeting every challenge. I mean, the T-Wolves go on the road to the defending champions
Boston
and
Celtics.
smack them twice.
Boston Celtics will be another example.
Of what?
The young Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown teams who advanced, made it to the finals, made it to the you know what I mean.
But here this is significant.
Super young.
They
teams.
got to a Game 7 against LeBron in Cleveland, and they lost that. They got to the finals against the Warriors.
That was the Eastern Conference Finals.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm like again, it's still kind of measured in championships, and there was they were arguably a better team than the Warriors team that beat them in the finals, and they had the lead in the series.
But they were super young.
But they
made it there. They were young.
I'm not saying it's not an accomplishment, but when you look at championship teams, they do tend to be a little bit older, a little bit more established, and have a little bit more pedigree. If that's the comparison, what these teams are doing is pretty amazing. And I think it'd be pretty ironic if you get to either Timberwolves or OKC get to the finals and meet the Celtics. Because the Celtics are right now the epitome of like playoff wear and tear. Like they've been to the finals, they've been to the conference finals, they've battled in all these situations, and they should be reaping the rewards of that experience. And it would be very interesting if they get to a final against one of those two teams.
It would.
And
be.
who wins?
It would be. It would be very interesting.
But again,
that would happen.
you're right in the sense. I mean, whoever wins wins. I mean, and these guys, OKC won comfortably yesterday, and the T-Wolves have won twice against them. I mean, they're doing everything you could ask of a team right now. Both teams.
Yeah.
So I mean, hats off to them. It's, I'm excited by it. I'm here to watch it.
I'm super excited because outside of course, my team, the 76ers, everything is going the way that I would like it to go. You know what I mean? Because and the Dallas OKC series is a little give and take interesting for me because I'm a huge Chet guy, but I'm also a huge Luka guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's interesting to see. So it really doesn't matter, but I'm going to love watching this series. Of course, OKC took the first game by a lot, and it looks like Luka is playing hobbled. Maybe I just love injured players.
Do you?
I guess so. Apparently so. When you learn that about yourself, you learn things that you don't know.
Oh, you gravitate toward injured
It
guys.
seems like I gravitate. I gravitate. Embiid, Luka, these guys are just hobbled, and it seems so. So we'll see if they could turn things around. And now this Denver thing is interesting. I think, people love to rush to call things great and generational instead of waiting to see it play out. Now, it's only 2-0. Denver could, of course, they can come back, make this thing a series, and win it. But, as far as calling things great and generational, I need enough proof. Yeah, after Mahomes won his second, I was doing that. But I thought, I really believe I had seen enough to call it great and generational. But with Denver, I just don't believe I had seen enough. With Denver and with Jokic, they're really good. They're a really good team. Jokic is a really good player, but there are deficiencies there. You know what I mean? And it seems like they play the Lakers every series, not just every year, but every series. But the Lakers they're just not a very good team.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people view Denver's success from them beating up on the Lakers every year. And I think
I picked that up today, and I didn't like it. I didn't really feel that it was very correct. I mean, I don't know.
What's that?
That Denver's like, it's like there was some meme. It's like, Denver against the Lakers, and they look like freaking the gladiators from 300, and then the Denver against anybody else, and they look like a couple guys at the Parliament House.
Oh, of course not. Of course
but,
not.
But like I just thought it's an overstatement. Like yeah, they've played that team and they seem to have a good matchup. But I mean, I maintain that Denver is a problem for most of the teams in the league. I mean, we've spent the last 2 months like looking down the road and saying, well, you may end up with like a Celtics Denver final, and could the Celtics really beat Denver?
The whole time, I told you the teams that Denver might struggle with. All the teams,
right?
Because in the regular, it's playing out in the regular season mostly how it's playing out in the playoffs. It's a matchup thing, and some teams and I told you, I said Minnesota's length did provide struggle. If I had to put money on the series, I would go Denver. But if you look at the regular season, Minnesota's length, it shows you it does bother Jokic, it does bother Murray.
No other team has like two bigs, the length, size, and ability of Gobert and Towns to contend with Jokic. And and again, and I saw Denver here in person, or not Denver. I saw Minnesota here in person, and going to the game against the Magic. My son and I, we both noted like they're just a big ass team. Like
who's that?
Minnesota. Like when you watch them in person, you see them like they're just big and long, and it's like that's a problem for a lot of teams.
Conley's literally the only small person out there, and he's about 6'2". Himself, but he's literally the only small person out there.
Right, and they're really a difficult team to play against, and so I could feel and see where this could be a matchup, but to be honest, I would bet Denver to win, from the start of the series. If I had to bet money, I would bet that.
Same.
And part of that equation, we know what Denver's done last year, and until you prove otherwise, there's still that question that we sort of started this segment with. Like, can this young team, are they ready to beat the champs and do, all that it takes in a playoff series to do that? And so far, they're answering every question positively. But it was a question going into the series.
Now, if Denver loses this series, there's going to be a Jokic question, right? And here goes the thing for me. I've being an Embiid guy, I enjoy there being a Jokic question because for the past 3 years, there just hasn't been, and they always say, man, there's nobody that can go up against Jokic, and he's just awesome. There's just no answers for him in the league, and here I am, and the whole entire city of Philadelphia going, hey. Every time he plays us, every time he plays Embiid, Embiid destroys him. Do you guys not? These games are televised. They're on TNT and ESPN. What are you guys saying that there's nobody? If you see that anywhere, everybody says it. You know what I mean? Especially in national media. Well, and now that it's showing. If he plays, and here goes the thing. I think Minnesota, Rudy Gobert has been awesome this year. Not only in the regular season.
But Rudy didn't even play in Game 2.
That's my point. Not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs. But I still think, and I told you this early in the year, I think the best iteration of that team is Karl-Anthony Towns at the center. And my point to that is, if you play Denver and you have a center that is long, athletic, okay, and that Jokic cannot, destroy, but also make him work on the defensive end that can actually score. The problem with the centers in today's league is the vast majority of them, 80%, 70%, whatever you want to say, they're rim runners. They don't have an offensive game. You know what I mean? They're rim runners. They have to depend on their point guards to throw lobs or pick and roll action.
Well, they're rim runners or they're spot up guys.
Or just strictly spot up like Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
Great point.
We're like, that's the thing. When you're talking about like Embiid, he's going to, over the course of the game, he's going to hit you at 3 levels of offense.
Yes.
And make you do different things to defend him. And so many of the centers on other teams, that the role is pretty simple. You're diving to the rim or you're spacing the floor and
Yes.
shooting at a decent enough clip that we have to respect that.
And it's only one of the three.
Right.
It's not all three.
Yeah.
Now, Karl Anthony Towns possesses a little bit of a lot of the shooting.
Yeah, I mean,
A
he's
lot of the shooting.
yeah.
But he can take a big off the dribble.
Yeah.
He can do a little bit of all of that
Yeah.
to make Jokic work. And I think the best iteration of that team is going to be Cat at center. And
Yeah.
then they're going to fill the rest in. But we'll see. Maybe they go all the way and win the championship with Rudy Gobert at center this year.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
agree with that?
No, I do. I mean, tactically, when I look at things tactically, I like the mobility and fluidity and skills because you could do more. You could create more problems for the other team. And whenever you have a player like Rudy Gobert who's so limited offensively, it's just something like it's not that hard to guard.